Welcome to our video lesson called Coaching Styles, Directive, and Facilitative. My name is Mo Balio. I'm president of Call Center Training Solutions. And this is a great topic because as you employ the floor coaching skills that we train in our classes and in the other online videos, it's important to know whether you're much more directive as a leader or if you're much more facilitative, because it will tell you a lot about your tendencies and how best to employ our skills, and maybe some things that you want to add to your coaching approach to make it even more effective that we pull in from the other coaching style. So as we go through this, there's a couple of notes. First of all, we're talking about your natural style. So if you hear something horrible on the floor and you run out there to try to fix it, will you tend to do most of the talking and say, you've got to get this done, you've got to change this? That would be more directive. Or would you go out there with questions? What happened? Tell me more. How can you fix it? And that would be more facilitative. Now, there's a lot more to it than just tell and ask, but those are the clear signs of which style you're much more likely are going to be falling into. And at the end, we're going to ask you to figure out what you can bring over from the other style to make your style even more effective. So we'll start with directive. And directive just means that you do most of the talking. That's the simplest way to put it. But it also deals with control and authority, and I want to walk through some bullets with you. I'm going to go through these quickly. There's a lot to talk about in this lesson. First of all, you're the one that chooses the coaching situations, the coaching solutions, and even the remedies, how to fix things. You're making those decisions most of the time, and you're telling the rep what they are. You're doing most of the talking. You choose which skills to focus on. If you listen to an entire call, you'll make the decision on which ones you want to focus on and either praise or improve. Third bullet, for you, it's all about the behavior. In other words, it's nothing personal. And that can be good or bad. It can be bad if you're not careful, because a lot of directive leaders can be kind of offensive and insulting in the way that they communicate, because they're not thinking about the person. For them, it's just, hey, fix this, just get it done. And we want to be careful. On the other hand, it can be a positive, because you're willing to say things that the facilitative style is much more hesitant about. So if somebody needs to know a way to improve, because for you it's all about the behavior, you're going to say, hey, this is what you needed to do to improve. Just be careful that you're not being insulting as you do it. Next bullet down, generally speaking, you set clear goals and expectations. This is a great one for you. If you want them to use the client's name more, you're going to tell them that. You might even say, from now on, use the client's name at least twice on every call. If you want them to close that sale, you're going to say, every single call, whether you think they're going to buy or not, ask the closing question. And clear direction, clear expectations translates immediately into better results almost all the time. This also, as I mentioned, usually comes with a strong level of authority. So they know you're serious even when you're having fun. They know you're the boss. They don't question it. And the higher your level of authority, the more they're going to do what you ask them to do without questioning it. And when you leave the floor, they're much more likely to continue doing it because of that level of authority. Now, the results on this, the directive style usually shows good results, which is great. And a lot of that comes from setting clear goals and expectations. Here's the thing about the directive style. If you use it most of the time without really thinking about it, over time, you lose two things in your employees. You lose creativity, because you're the one really making all the decisions and doing most of the talking. You're not involving them enough, and you lose motivation. Long-term, your employees, they just wear down when they're not involved much in their own development, and it's more just listening to you and what you want them to do. So based on those two concerns, here are 3 easy ways to improve and make your directive style even more effective. First one, always involve your reps in the discussions. Ask them some questions, even though it might feel like to you that it's taking too long, but get them involved as you coach them on specific skill sets. And when I say that, be careful not to just simply look like you're trying to trap them. Like, what did we agree to in the meeting this morning? Why didn't you do it? That's not involving them. It's more like entrapment. Things like, why did you do that instead of this? What were you trying to accomplish? Since that didn't work well, what else might you try? I can make recommendations. What do you think of this one? How might you employ that? Questions like that get your reps involved, and they really appreciate that, and they buy in much more completely. Second one, thank them regularly. Express appreciation. A lot of times the directive style feels like, all they did was what I asked them to do, so why am I thanking them? They should be thanking me. But you know what? Long-term employees need to feel like you're loving on them, and the best way to do that is regularly say, hey, you know what? Thanks for doing that. I appreciate that. I know I'm tough, or I know that I set a high expectation, and you always work hard to get there. Thanks so much for that. That'll blow people away if you don't usually do this. Some of them you might have to pick up off the floor because they passed out, but it will really impact your team long-term and maintain that motivation. Last one, let them know how their efforts have helped you and the team. This is a little different than a thank you. You're saying things like, as a result of you starting to use the new clothes, now I'm hearing Susan and Joseph start to use it as well. So you're really making an impact on the team. As a result of the things that you're doing, my boss said this to me and congratulated me. Those types of praises, when people know how they're contributing to a team, are huge motivators. And the next day and the day after that, you'll see a little bump in their performance because they're just kind of psyched to be working there because they know not just that you appreciate them, but how much of an impact they're making. And that also builds a sense of accountability in your reps. Our second style is the facilitative style. So if the directive tells, the facilitative asks. And as I mentioned before, they are vastly different from each other. So let me give you a few bullets about the facilitative style, and then I'm going to give you some tips as well to make your style even better. Bottom line with facilitative is that it's all about the needs of the employee, which can be excellent, but very often we're missing authority, and we can even seem like a pushover if we're not careful. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to improve that area, but maintain that care for your employees. So here we go on the bullets. Focused on the needs of the employee. It's very clear that the facilitative style is into and wants to know about how you're doing. That's typically how they'll start their coaching conversations. Not just how are you doing today on the phones with the new clothes or with the new irate caller process, but how are you doing in general? How was your weekend? How's your mom? And those are nice things. Employees appreciate that. Next one down, it's an interactive style very naturally, where the directive style needs to remember to ask questions. The facilitative style would almost question why they would even tell you anything since they trust in you, they believe in you, and they naturally think you know best. And so they'll always start by asking questions. How's it going today? What are you working on? How do you think you might accomplish that? So it's a natural style. Keep doing that because involved employees tend to have more ownership and accountability at the end of the day. Next one down, unlikely to do any excessive scolding of any kind or show disappointment. Another positive trait because you can coach and make change without seeming like you're always disappointed in your reps. And that's something that the directive style does have to be careful about. Fourth one, protective of reps to upper management. This can sometimes almost get in your way because you may have some long time underperforming reps and your senior management is saying, look, we need to move on from this rep. They're not doing the job. And you get very protective. It's actually the one time when you really put your foot down and draw your line in the sand and say, no, they're having some personal problems and things like that. Be very careful with that. Only do that if you've seen some production from your rep, if you've seen them starting to focus back on the job and make a difference and appeal to your manager about the positives that you've seen rather than just say they're going through a lot of hassles at home. That will not help your senior management who cannot make excuses to their senior management. They've got to get results. Next one down, you encourage creativity and motivation naturally just through the questions that you ask. It's another great one. With self-starting employees, this style can be excellent. And in theory, if you read a lot about humanist versus behaviorist styles, behaviorist being directive, humanist being facilitative, Theory X and Theory Y by Douglas McGregor, same concepts. It's more about using a certain style of coaching based on the employee. But I've always found when we work with supervisors that it's important to know your natural style first. So the self-starting employee is the one that would appreciate this style because they don't need a lot of authority, but we want to blend both of them for the better for all employees, and we've seen that that's when you get your best results. Now, results are inconsistent with the facilitative style, okay? And the problem for that is that you do your interactive, you're very caring, you're very loving, you want their best, you're curious how you can help them versus just telling them what to do. But in the long run, you have a harder time in the facilitative style putting your foot down and saying, look, this has to happen today. I can't wait for you to get around to it or wait another couple of weeks. Those are things you never want to say. The facilitative style tends to lack the authority level that the directive style has, and it shows up in your communication style all the time if you're not careful. And that's when reps might lose respect for the facilitative style and not do what you say. So we want to blend in more authority, which we're going to talk about in a moment. But that's the biggest drawback of the facilitative style is great on the interaction, great on the enthusiasm for the rep. But if you lack authority and you don't like that part of the job, long term, you won't get the results. And the very people that you loved on when they leave the company because they've been let go very often will give you scorching final interviews where they say, my manager didn't give me any leadership, they didn't give me any direction, I had no idea, when you were so nice to them. So be careful, bring in more authority so that does not happen, and it really makes that interactive style really come out in its best way. So here's what you want to do in the facilitative style to bring out your best, and you're going to see some things from the directive that will really help you as well. First, increase the level of authority in your voice. So this may be tough, but you want to speak like an expert, someone who expects great results, someone who expects people to follow your directives and follow your expectations. Stop apologizing so much. Don't seem so hesitant when you communicate with people. That's a big one. Work on that one first. Second one down, when coaching formative things like fixes and improvement opportunities, start with a clear statement. Today I'd like to focus on your responses to your irate callers. Many facilitative style leaders will sort of get there eventually, but it doesn't produce that level of authority. So I'd like to focus on this today. Or what one skill would you like to focus on? And let's get started talking about that and leave out some of the chit chat that you tend to like to start with. And the last one, always make sure that you've established a clear, achievable objective by the time that coaching discussion is over. So if you're talking about irate callers, what are the 3 steps that you want your reps to use, that rep to use with every single irate caller, starting on the next call? Don't just say things like let's see if you can work on that today. Use more directive words like, let's do this for the rest of the day on every call. I want you to do these things at least once every time. Those tips will really help you. Those 3 things will bring in the authority and the clarity and the clear expectations that will then really ignite the interactive style and bring out its best. Okay, so I really moved fast there. We covered a lot of things in a short period of time. First of all, do you lean more directive or more facilitative? Second, as you leave this video lesson, of the 3 bullets of the 3 tips, the improvement bullets that you can work on, which is the one for you that you're going to focus on tonight? Get started quickly, improve your style, and improve your results. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in another video lesson.